Ready, everybody? This time, gotta get some energy going. So let's stand up. And practice just getting up on your tippy toes first. Just get the blood going on the tippy toes. Come on, young people, old people, all people. Get a little air now. A little bit of air. A little bit of air. Come on. Arms up. I'm a champion. I'm a champion. Born a champion. All right. Give yourselves a round of applause. Good job. Good job. A little bit more on the mic, yeah. Maria, you want to come up here and do that? No? Do you want to see Maria jump up and down? She's still doing it back there. It's contagious. All right, welcome everybody. Thank you for coming tonight. And I am just curious, how many of you guys is it your first time here at a workshop? Raise your hands. Raise your hand. No? Okay, give them a round of applause. Good. Awesome. And how many of you guys have been to a workshop before? And keep your hands if you've been to 5 or more workshops. 10 or more, 20 or more, 30 or more, 40 or more, 50 or more, 60, 70. Okay, we'll stop there, but just wanted to give the newbies a chance to see what we do and why we do it. We have an old saying here, it's when you stop learning, you stop growing, and when you stop growing, you start what? Dying, yeah. So there's always room to learn, there's always room to grow, and every workshop you get something else. So when, I don't know if you ever saw the little workshop cards that we have, it's got all of the titles for the whole year out. And so today's Energizing Nutrition, a month from now, we'll be at cancer prevention. So keep track of that, and you know, it's obvious that most of you guys have been to 20, 30, 40, 50 workshops. You've been to the same titles over and over again, but the question is it the same workshop? No, you always get something different. So I want to encourage you guys to, you know, continue to learn, continue to grow, keep track of these, and then be a blessing and pay it forward. You know, because anytime you bring a guest here, I've never had a guest sit through a workshop where they just weren't overwhelmed and blown away and just been looking, say that they've been looking for it for so long. So I appreciate you guys for bringing guests, and so let's just move right into what we're going to talk about tonight. And we're talking about energizing nutrition, but we're going to go a little bit deeper than that and spending some time thinking about the best way for us to wrap our minds around this, but also more importantly, make application with the information. When it comes down to energy, I mean, you can ramp up on coffee, you can ramp up on Monster, Red Bull, all energy drinks, and aside of the fact that you know what goes up has to come down, you know that there's harmful side effects of things. But really, where does energy come from? Does it come from the outside in, or does it come from the inside out? Inside out. But where? Like, where in the body does energy come from? You know, for those of us who, what's that? Inside the cell. Very good. So we all went to school. At some point, we could probably, you know, clear out the cobwebs. And remember, we learned about the cells and the mitochondria, and there's DNA in there. And, you know, so we're going to kind of get back to some of that today and really help you get rooted in terms of why we need to do what we need to do. And believe it or not, it's not just for us, it's also for the generations to come. You're going to learn some really interesting things. So yes, the DNA and the energy and everything comes from the inside of the cell, and I'm going to talk to you a lot about tonight how to access that and make that work in your favor. How many of you guys would like 30, 40% more energy? Say aye. Aye. All of us, yeah. So we're going to get down to brass tacks here. So when it comes to more energy and when it comes to maintaining energy and fighting off disease, and it really has a lot to do with your genes, believe it or not. Now, when we talk about genetic risk, we all have a genetic risk. I can tell you that there's cancer that runs in my family, there's heart disease that runs in my family, so I have all those genes. Is there anybody else who has those genes that run in their family? May have lost, you know, family members, friends. It's and we tend to, you know, look at that and say, you know, it just runs in my family, it's hereditary. Well, there is some risk, yes. If your body is actually expressing and promoting those disease genes, then you have a high risk. But if you have a lifestyle or you're doing things that are actually shutting off the expression of those disease genes, then it's not going to affect you. So we all have a genetic risk for all the diseases that doctors put a diagnosis on: celiac disease, lactose, gluten intolerance, dementia, Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's, all has genetic risk, right? Cancer, heart disease, diabetes, all has genetic risk. Fibromyalgia, joint, muscle pain, all has genetic risk. Depression and anxiety, all has genetic risk. Autoimmune diseases, sleep disorders, skin problems. Got the point? You know, we can go on and on and on. Your genes are the hereditary instructions that never leave you. And you're either going to turn those genes on or you're going to turn them off. So it's basically the building blocks. And it's amazing because the same genes, the same genetic code is in a liver cell, and that same genetic code is in your kidney cell, and that same genetic code is in your muscle cells. But there are certain things that have to happen that stop the muscle cells from doing what a liver cell does. So when it comes to genetic expression, that's really what it's at. What promotes it and what suppresses it. So everybody here has a genome. Raise your hand if you have a genome. Okay, so you have 46 chromosomes, 23 from mom, 23 from dad. And that's the genetic instruction. And you know, the entire human race has anywhere from 21 to 23,000, which is what comprises the human genome. So there are different variations of that, the way the chromosomes come together, and those variations are going to be expressed in each of us differently. And to the degree that we have these variations is going to be our genetic risk. So it's different for everybody. It's a blueprint. Your genetic code, basically, you know, it's going to tell you how you're doing today. It's going to tell you how you're doing tomorrow. So that genetic code is vitally important as far as your susceptibility and whether you're enjoying life and health or you're struggling with it. So what I hope to get across to you today before the end of the program tonight is removing the guesswork, you know? Hoping is not a strategy. Praying is very important, but also having a plan of action along with that. And that's what I hope to bring in for a landing here pretty soon. So this is important that you get this point. You are not the genes that you were born with. We all have different genes. We were all born with different genes, but that's not our identity. Our identity is not the genes that we're born with. Our identity is the genes that we what? We express. So, kind of like a little switch, you know, those genes can either be turned on or they can be turned off. There are some genes, let's just use cancer genes, for example. If you have cancer that runs in your family, or you have the genes that you may be passing on, they can either be turned on. Cancer promoting genes can be turned on, and cancer promoting genes can be turned off. Cancer fighting genes can be turned on, and cancer fighting genes can be turned off. So it's important that everybody realize what's happening here. With every gene, every genetic tendency, every disease, you're going to have the promotion of those genes, or you're going to have the suppression of those genes. So obviously, out of 1 through 4, if you've got cancer genes, and you've got that in your family, you've got that in your genetic composition, which ones do you want to do? 2 and 3, very good. Did everybody see that? So you want to turn off the cancer promoting genes and turn on the cancer fighting genes. Yeah, and there are studies, and they've done this successfully, which I'm going to share with you very shortly with amazing outcomes. Okay, so this is a cute little video clip. I want to share this with you. And what is this? Yeah, I'm going to have to start wearing glasses around here. You guys are going to see that happening pretty soon. We were standing there. You were right in front of us at church last Wednesday. And I'm trying to like make believe I know the words to the hymn because I can't see it. And my wife's looking at me. She's like, And she starts cracking up. I'm like, what are you laughing at? She's like, you're mouthing the words. I'm like, I can't read it. I can't read it anymore. I'm sorry. So sad, but at least I can laugh about it.
The sweet smell of fruit doesn't normally send rats running. But when researchers paired the orange, cherry, almondy scent of the chemical acetophenone with a painful electric shock, lab rats quickly learned to fear it. Along the way, extra neurons sprouted in their noses and in the smell processing center of their brains, making them super sensitive to the scent. This result isn't shocking. What is surprising is that the rats' pups and their pups' were also startled by the smell of acetophenone and had the same extra neurons as their fathers, despite never having been introduced to either their dads or the fruity scent before. But how could the pups have inherited something that their fathers learned? Basic genetics tells us that only DNA gets passed along to offspring. Characteristics like memories, scars, or giant muscles can't get passed on since acquiring them doesn't alter the genetic code. But it turns out that instilling fear in the rats did trigger genetic changes, not in the DNA sequence itself, but instead in how that code was read and used in the rats' bodies. In every cell, biological machinery constantly translates DNA into the proteins needed to carry out vital processes. Chemical switches attached to the DNA turn genes on or off or up and down, telling the machinery which proteins to produce and in what quantities. These switches, called epigenetic tags, are why a kidney cell looks and acts differently than a skin or nerve cell, even though all three cells have identical DNA. But the switches in any one cell aren't set in stone. Teaching those rats to fear the fruity smell switched one of their smell-sensing genes into overdrive. Researchers don't know all the places in the rats' bodies where this switch got flipped, but they know it happened in one key set of cells, the rats' sperm cells, which would one day pass along the tweaked genetic material, making the next generation of rats super sensitive to acetophenone.
So that's really interesting, isn't it? That fear can actually change your genetic expression. How you behave, how you think about things, your mental processing, stress, that's huge. Can you imagine that? That changes the way your body expresses DNA. And if you're childbearing or you're planning on having kids, whatever you're doing to yourself, what are you doing to the next generation? You're passing it on to them. That's powerful, isn't it? So that inherently bears within it a responsibility for us to leave our family in better shape, leave our community in better shape than we found it. I mean, we can do something about this. Remember that when you're taking care of yourself, it's not just for you, it's for future generations. And sometimes that's all we need. You know, it's one thing if we want to lose weight, if we want to feel healthy, or if we want to feel better and we want to look better, and we do that for, you know, self-centered or selfish reasons, which may in and of itself may not be a bad thing. But sometimes it's more inspiring for people to do things for a reason bigger than themselves, right? For a purpose bigger than themselves. Sometimes people can get mobilized a little more effectively. And I thought that was interesting. That's what I thought about, you know? So the picture on the right shows Time magazine. 2 years ago, they published a study. They said, why your DNA isn't your destiny. And this research has been going on for the last decade, but now they're really pushing it to the forefront. Because now it's really understood that your health is in your hands. You're not a victim. It says the new science of epigenetics reveals how the choices you make can change your genes and those of your kids. And so you pass on your genes for 4 generations. They know this. This is an absolute fact. 4 generations. So you see that black and white picture there? That's 6 generations of my family.
Wow.
Okay? So I'm going to start with the arrow in the lower right-hand corner. She was 102 years old when that picture was taken. That's my great-great-great-grandmother, Frida Nestle. And this picture was taken in 1900, before they lived in Austria, and it was before they emigrated to the United States. The lady to the left of her is my great-great-grandmother, and her name is Rachel Nestle. And to the left of her is Bertha Atlas, who married Joe Atlas to her right. Her, I remember when I was a kid. That was my great-grandmother. That was my bubby. And I do remember her. She lived to the ripe old age of 93. And whatever she did, whatever food she had, whatever stress she had, whatever environment she was in, guess what? I got it. Yeah, as a matter of fact, her mother passed it on. If they were exposed to lead, if they were exposed to environmental toxins, for better or worse, it's inside of me. The children, the two children right below her, the little boy was killed at the age of 12. He was run over by a horse and buggy. They had Joe and Bertha had 9 children, and the one next to her is my Aunt Blanche, and I remember her. She was the oldest. She was the older sister of my grandmother, who at the time of that picture was not yet born. So I just wanted to share that with you. It's pretty cool, pretty interesting, and it has relevance as far as generations. So wherever you're at, whoever you're at, remember, this is we're talking about this now, not just for us, but for the generations to come. Everything that we talk about is applicable to that. Make sense?
Yeah.
Epigenetics. What does epi mean? Epi means above. Something that has preeminence or is superior to. Refers to the fact that the lifestyle choices you make changes the gene expression. And they're far superior than what your DNA is. So whatever you inherited, the lifestyle change that you make far outweighs whatever is going to happen as a result of that. What you do, how you think, the way you behave, your environment, how you speak to yourself, if you're negative, if you're always complaining, if you're positive. On the other hand, if you're grateful, if you have gratitude, humility, all of these characteristics, these values, these morals that we have, play into the expression of our genes, for better or worse. Epigenetics will pass down pro-cancer or anti-cancer genes. We talked about that, and now everybody should understand why. When we talk about the core 4, these little symbols that you have there, you may have seen them here in the office, and what it refers to is the Elevation Health Core 4. This is our health delivery process based on lifestyle changes. Function, fitness, nutrition, and education. Function, fitness, nutrition, and education. So we can break those down so that you can extrapolate some useful information to apply through this. So we'll start with fitness. How many of you guys have learned that it's good to exercise more than once annually? Have you heard that? It's probably a good idea. You saw the news flash. You saw it on the 6 o'clock news. So it is highly recommended. Ask your doctor if getting off your butt is good for you. You don't have to do strenuous exercise. You know, there are studies that simply show that brisk walking can stimulate, positive gene expression. You guys know that. It's good for your metabolism, it's good for fat burning. I don't want to go into it. Everybody knows that we're supposed to be doing it. The question that you should be asking yourself is, are you doing it consistently? So, consistency is king, okay? Consistency is king. Now, if you're a creature of habit, consistency comes probably more easy to you than maybe somebody who's not a creature of habit. So yin and yang. For those of you guys who are married, one of you guys is the ritual person, right? The consistency person, and the other person is fly by the seat of their pants. And that's what makes for a long, happy marriage, when you have one of each. If that's what keeps you in balance. I'm the consistency guy, and my wife is just like happy-go-lucky, and I wish I could be like that, but I'm not. I'm OCD. So when it comes to exercise, I exercise, 7 days a week. I have to, or my skin starts crawling. I come out of my skin. Now, I don't kill myself, but a few days a week I'll lift weights, and a few days a week I'll do cardio, and on the days that I should be resting, I go for a brisk walk. I have to do something. I have to keep moving. To me, motion is life. Now, the good part of that is that in doing that, in being compulsive, if you will, with something like that, your health in some fashion is on overdrive. Like a lot of these good things you put on autopilot, as opposed to getting on and off track with that. Many of you guys are working on getting your blood pressure, your cholesterol, your blood sugar under control. You want to keep your immune system high. You want to reduce the frequency of illness, right? There's many of you in the room who want to do that. And exercise is a big component of that. And exercise, again, from what we're talking about now, it's not only going to help with you and your health, but who else? For the generations to come. Even if you're done with your childbearing years, aren't you setting a good example? I'll tell you, I think one of the reasons why I still exercise, why I started exercising in the first place, when I was 14, I started exercising, because my father modeled that for me. When I can clearly remember the day, and we were living in New York in Howard Beach. It was probably 1975, 1976. I couldn't have been more than 6 or 7 years old. My dad was probably about 260 pounds, and he was sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I remember sitting in the living room, and he was in his robe, and he just got up off the lazy boy chair, and he started jogging in place. And I never saw him. The day after that, for the rest of his life, I've never seen him not exercise. And I watched him, jog around the house. I used to laugh at him. He still does his army calisthenics now the same way he did 40 years ago in front of me and my brother. And guess what my brother and I pretty much do every day. So it was modeled for us. Yeah, so it's a good thing. My kids see it. I almost was losing hope in my oldest son, Josh. He's up in his second year in college. Instead of the freshman 15, he put on the freshman 40. At 6'4", he's kind of stretching, wearing it well. But now he's doing 5-mile runs like three times a week. And I think it's kicking in there. I'm like, they're starting to. So I think it's probably going to follow into the next generation because of what my dad modeled for me. So keep that in mind, parents. That's really, really important. Let's talk about nutrition here, and I want to give you some conceptual reasoning foundation, because if you get this, then you'll get everything else. When it comes to environment, we said that it expresses how your genes kind of play out, right? The environment. It's not just what you think and all your stress and what you eat, but the environment, right? Not just the environment outside you as far as, smog and mercury, pollution, and all that other poisons and toxins, but also the environment inside your body. The environment that you're bathing your cells in. I'm going to say that one more time. The environment that you're bathing your cells in. Just as there's an ecosystem out here with the birds and the trees and all that stuff, and we wouldn't pollute and throw garbage out the window, right? Wouldn't that bother you if you saw somebody do that? Well, imagine that we're doing the same thing to our internal ecosystem, that we bathe our cells in. And remember, this is where your energy is coming from. The quality of those cells depends on the environment that you bathe them in. Are you following me so far? You with me? All right. So understand this. Your body, the internal environment, must be slightly alkaline. The bloodstream must be slightly alkaline. And no different than a pool. You got a green pool, you got a clear blue pool. Which pool are you going to dive into? Yeah, what's wrong with the green one? What's wrong with the green one? What's that? Algae's growing in it. Okay, so why does algae grow in a pool like that? Because what's off? The pH is off. It's not balanced. So when the pH is balanced, why don't you see algae growing in the pool? It can't survive in that environment. The climate, the conditions have to be right for the fungus or the algae to grow in that environment. The same thing happens in your body. If the pH stays right in your body, sickness and disease and fungus, yeast, mold, cancer does not have the opportunistic conditions to express itself, to develop. But if you let the pH go into the acidic range, now you're creating a hospitable environment for cancer, sickness, disease. Cancer cannot grow in an alkaline environment. Somebody already won a Nobel Prize for that back in 1931. It's a known fact. Cancer cannot survive in an alkaline environment. When my mom went for treatment for breast cancer, she didn't go for chemo or radiation. She went to a place in Spain that got her body alkaline. Okay? She beat it with strategies based on what I'm teaching you right now. And so when it comes to gene expression, you've got to have the right climate. You've got to have the right alkalinity. Okay, so for most of us, based on our acidic lifestyle and diets and what we do, we're south of that pH being in the 7 range. It should be slightly alkaline, 7.365. Give or take, you want to be right around 7. But when we have the standard American diet, we're eating too much processed foods, meats, salt, vinegar, coffee, fermented products, alcohol, And then you have your artificial sweeteners. All these are highly acidic. Meat, highly acidic. So here's the part where it gets tricky. This is conceptual, okay? And in a perfect world, obviously you want to have a good balance of this. And I'm not saying don't ever eat this, eat that. You have to have a good balance of this. But for most of us, we need to clean this up and reduce and eliminate as much of that as possible to get to the point where we have an alkaline diet and lifestyle. What are some of the alkaline foods that we should be having the majority of our diet in? We've got cucumbers, broccoli, kale, peppers, avocados, right? Celery, highly alkaline. Water-rich fruits and vegetables. Low-sugar fruits. Lemons, limes, tomatoes, avocados. Those are low-sugar fruits. Berries, low-sugar fruits. Granny Smith apples, low-sugar fruits. Go easy on the sugary fruits because they will turn out to be acidic. So are fruits good for you? Yes. Are all fruits created equal? No, not in terms of the pH. All right, so who in here said they wanted 30 to 40% more energy? Almost everybody? Yeah. All right, so if you want to energize, you have to alkalize. Remember the Energizer bunny, right? Still going. Hasn't stopped yet. And what type of batteries do we buy? Alkaline. Just remember that. Whatever we're putting into our body, it's either going to be creating more alkalinity or it's going to be creating more acidity. You're either going to be causing disease-fighting genes to come on or turning the disease-promoting genes on. You're either going to be turning disease-promoting genes off or disease-fighting genes off. Depending on what you're bathing your cells in, what the pH of the cells are doing, you're going to do one or the other in terms of the genetic expression. Is this making sense? Are you guys with me so far? Yes?
How would you test your pH?
You can test by way of saliva, you can test by urine, there are strips that you can buy, yeah. And you do the best you can with that. There's also live blood cell microscopy, which is a little more accurate, but there are ways to do it, yeah. Okay, so now that you have that, and we're still talking about conceptually on a cellular level, is everybody following what I'm talking about? Okay, so one of the ways that you know that you can enhance the turning on the disease-fighting genes and turning off the disease-promoting genes is by what? Alkalizing. And it just so happens that if you alkalize, you're going to energize. Going deeper into the cellular level, so if we use that, if we look at that as a cell, where the red arrow falls is at the cell membrane. Where is it falling?
Cell membrane.
Cell membrane. Why is the cell membrane important? Because that's where the rubber meets the road. Either the good stuff's getting in, or it's not. Either the toxins and the waste are getting out, or it's not. And at that level right now, right there is going to determine whether or not you're going to get energy and whether or not you're going to pull those epigenetic tags. Remember those levers? Turning the genes on or off? Right there, it's going to happen. That cell membrane is permeable. It's a bilipid layer, which means it's made of fat. What is it made of?
Fat.
Fat. Fat is very delicate. It's a very delicate substance and it's very easily damaged, especially by acidity, the acid diet and lifestyle. If you take Coca-Cola and you spill it on, let's say, concrete and there's blood on there, if you haven't learned, that's a pretty easy way to clean that up. Florida Highway Patrol used to use that. When you get cavities in your teeth, it's not because of the sugar. Sugar breaks down into acid. And if acid could burn holes and bore holes through, a marble floor, it can sure as heck do that to your teeth, the enamel in your teeth. So when it comes to that, all that acidity, how is that affecting the cell wall? It's destroying it, it's damaging it. And that cell wall, remember, it has the permeability to allow the nutrients to get in, which are going to inevitably supply you with the energy and allow the toxic waste to get out. If those toxic wastes don't get out, now again, you're turning the disease-promoting genes on. So that's really, really important. So at the cell wall, okay, so here's the layer of the cell. Is everybody with me? To the top of that is outside the cell, below it is inside the cell. In order for the cells to carry energy through your bloodstream. There's oxygen. It's an energy transport system. So these cells are carrying oxygen. Many of them, they're shuttling that oxygen through your bloodstream very, very quickly, and that's going to determine how much energy you have also. So every cell has an electrical charge. There is a polarity that every cell in your body has, and it's either going to repel the other cells or it's going to cause them to clump and stick together. How do you think they're more easily transportable through the bloodstream? When they attract each other or when they repel each other? When they repel each other. Very good. Then they can travel faster. Then there's nothing clumping together, stopping the nutrients from coming in. Then they can shuttle the oxygen through the bloodstream. Then you have maximum energy and function. So if you look, you see on the outside, those little dashes, those are the negative charges. They're negatively charged on the outside, they're positively charged on the inside. That's how it's supposed to be in an ideal world. The way God created your body, you're supposed to have foods by God go in the body by God. Okay? Everything that's normal, natural, grows out of the ground or off a vine, not processed, not grown in a laboratory. If you can't pronounce it, God didn't make it, doesn't belong in your body. Right? Just so happens that most of the foods that God created were meant to go in the body. And there are receptors on the cells. They actually help with the normal pH, and they help to maintain this normal polarity. But what happens is, we listen to commercials, we watch TV, thank you to the FDA, and we're allowed to harbor this. We open up our medicine chests and we open up our pantries and we go through drive-thrus, and this is what we're putting in our bodies all day long, every day, every week, every year for decades, causing massive inflammation at the cell wall. And when that happens at the cell wall, what does it do to the very delicate substance? What do we say the cell wall is made up of? Fat. What does the inflammation do at the layer of the cell wall? It destroys the integrity of it. And because of that, now all the negative charges, all the positive charges which are on the inside, leak out and they go to the outside, and now they become positive on the outside and negative on the inside. And if I'm positive, you don't want to be away from me. You want to what? I'm going to attract you. And so when all the cells start attracting each other, they stick together. And that's when you start having fungus and yeast infections. That's when your blood transport system and your energy starts shutting down. So all of these bad fats, the trans fats, the sugars, the processed meats, all of the acidity causes inflammation at the cell membrane, and it just destroys the function of that membrane, and it flips the epigenetic tags. It destroys energy production. You guys already know this. It's pretty obvious if the cell membrane isn't working, good stuff is not getting in, bad stuff's not getting out, right? And then lastly, most importantly, it turns on the disease-promoting genetic expression and turns off the disease-fighting genetic expression. Now you're starting to get a closer look as far as why it's so important to make better changes in our lifestyle. Right or right?
Right.
Making sense? So here's live blood cell microscopy. I've had this done before, and actually, before the doctor in Spain took my mom, she spent 2 weeks over there doing extensive treatment with everything that he did. This is one of the things. He sent a blood kit before she went over there, and he analyzed her blood. And it was live blood cell microscopy, everything that we're talking about tonight. So the blood cell sample on the left versus the blood cell sample on the right, which one do you think is normal?
Right.
The right, yeah, you can see the plasma is clear, the cells are clear. Look at they almost have a glow to them on the outside. The integrity of the cell wall is perfect, it's not disrupted. So guess what? You got all the good nutrients going in, the waste products are going out, they're repelling each other, carrying maximum oxygen, maximum transport, perfect function there. And then on the left, what do you notice about the integrity of the cell wall there? Can you see the starburst on some of them? Yeah, it's ruptured. The cell membrane is ruptured. Remember, all the positive charges leak out. Now they're sticking together. That clumping is going to start the formation.
Shape.
Yep, of changing shape. Yep, they're sticking together. The nutrients can't get in. The waste products can't get out. Now they can't shuttle and transport oxygen. Your energy's going down. Great environment for cancer and fungus and yeast and mold. Perfect opportunity. And those are the conditions that we allow to develop if we're not reading labels and not guarding what goes into our bodies, or our children for that matter, right? So we have to learn how to read labels. And especially with the marketing is so slick these days, you can't trust anything. So I always use this Nutri-Grain label because it looks healthy. You know, you see fruit, you see raspberries. Oh, it's got to be healthy. But if you look at the label and you read, you know, out of the 60 or 70 ingredients in there, if I read them all, here, look, what does it say? High fructose corn syrup. What is that? Sugar. Raspberries. Right? Corn syrup, which is what?
Sugar.
High fructose corn syrup, which is what?
Sugar.
Glycerin, which is what?
Sugar.
Fructose, which is what?
Sugar.
Sugar, which is what?
Sugar.
You just keep reading it. You see partially hydrogenated soybean oil. There's nothing good in here at all. But we fall for it every time. And, you know, many of us, we buy this stuff, and if you're not reading labels, you're allowing all the damage and the destruction that you're learning about, you're allowing to happen if you don't read labels. You cannot trust anything anymore. Would everybody agree?
Yes.
It's so important. And so you have these, the toxic, the trans fats, hydrogenated fats, and you know, when you rip open a bag of popcorn, again, if you're not looking carefully at what's in the ingredients there, you're allowing inflammation to occur. Hydrogenated oils, partially hydrogenated oils, anything that's packaged is going to have that in there for what? Shelf life. The longer the shelf life, the shorter yours.
Oh, wow.
Simple to remember, right? The longer the shelf life, the shorter yours. The hydrogenated fats go in there and basically destroy everything at the cellular level. And those bad fats are toxic. They're toxic. They're toxic to your body, to your cells, to your brain. And they don't come out for a good 90 to 120 days. Even if you stop eating them, you're in there dealing with for the next 3 to 4 months. Highly destructive. Okay, so let's reverse order this, and how do we reverse engineer this and kind of clean up a lot of that inflammation? Anti-inflammatory, alkalizing, and energizing nutrition. What's one of the easiest ways to start alkalizing? Drink more water. More water, yeah. One of the things that you can easily do is carry a liter of water with you, you know, to work, keep it with you there. 3 liters a day keeps the doctor away. 3 liters a day keeps the doctor away. And I will tell you, I've been doing this for a really long time, since I started studying the alkalinity, acid alkalinity concept many years ago, and I've never stopped. And one of the ways that you can gauge whether or not you're well hydrated or not is look at what? Your urine. If your urine is yellow, you don't have enough water. Make sure you drink until it's clear. And if you're running to the bathroom a lot, that's a good sign. It's a really good sign. It helps to detoxify. And you want to drink half your body weight in fluid ounces. So give or take 3 liters is usually enough for everybody. And that's one of the ways to help keep your body alkaline. Did you know they make alkaline water? You guys know that. For many of these, you can look at the pH on the side of the bottle. That's another way that might help you. Another easy way, this is a little bit less expensive, and this one's free. Take a lemon, slice it in half, squeeze the lemon juice in there. Anytime you go to a restaurant, you get water with sliced lemon. Lime does the same thing. It boosts the pH up. All right. Water-rich vegetables and greens, again, highly alkaline. All of your vegetables, what do I always tell you to do? To put what on it? Hey, very good. Extra virgin olive oil. Extra virgin olive oil. Yes. So water-rich vegetables, extra virgin olive oil is alkaline, and it's anti-inflammatory. And don't sit there with your spoon and measure out how many tablespoons. Remember, the good fat doesn't make you fat. You want to have your veggies swim in that stuff because it's alkaline, it's anti-inflammatory, and it's really good for you. Okay, so omega-3 fats, we talked about olive oil, fish oils, flaxseed oil, okay? Low sugar fruits, we talked about lemons, limes, tomatoes, avocados. What is this doing? At a cellular level, it's helping to put out the flames. It's helping the cells to regenerate. Cells are going to regenerate whether you want them to or not, right? So you got damaged cells, the old ones are going out, the new ones are coming in. But based on what you're doing to cause these genes to express themselves, it's going to be for better or worse. May as well have it for better, right? And so we're going to do all these things, and the new cells that are coming in, they're going to be functioning better. They're going to allow the good stuff to come in, the bad stuff to go out. And everything is going to have a much higher level of function the way we want it to. On the left side, you see the food pyramid that we learned in elementary school, right? And what did they teach you should be the majority of your diet?
Grains.
Carbohydrates, breads, grains, rice, cereal, pasta. And where has that gotten us? With less or more cases of heart disease? Less or more cases of diabetes? Yeah. Less or more cases of cancer? Alzheimer's disease now, they're attributing to this. Many physicians are starting to refer to Alzheimer's disease as type 3 diabetes because that's what triggers it. The high insulin levels is what causes dementia and then prediabetes. And it all is traceable back to this. The only way to shut that off or reverse all these diseases, you can nip it in the bud with one shot. All those diseases you can reverse, and science has already proven this with one thing, and that is the vast majority of your diet, the 60% being greens and good oils. Greens and good oils. Yeah, you have your protein and your fruit, your vegetables, your nuts, but the hierarchy has to kind of be flipped on its head. Whereas before they said fats and oils and all that, that's the least amount. That really should be the biggest amount. Why? Because the cellular function depends on that. Your brain function depends on that. And your genetic expression depends on that. You see? So we've had it backwards this whole time, and the FDA approved it. Why? For the benefit of the Food and Drug Administration. Right? So they kill you with the food, and then they get to treat your illness with the drugs. So they're laughing all the way to the bank.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's time we took our health back. We have to take control of our health back. Our doctors are good people, but they're part of a system today that I tell you all the time is killing more people than it's helping. They don't have a cure, and they don't know how to reverse degenerative disease. What I'm telling you does. It's not that they're not smart and they don't care. Their standard of medicine is different. Their standard of medicine is to diagnose and treat a disease, not to reverse it, not to tell you how to correct the cause of it. That's why you guys are here. But the sad part is the majority of our community and Americans don't know that. The thought never even enters their head. Yet they sit in their house, in their pews, in church, in school every day. They're praying to God for an answer. And sometimes what kills me is they pray that God would use a medical doctor and give them wisdom to help them. That throws me for a loop, Jim. That throws me for a freaking loop. Anyway, I better shut up. I'm gonna get myself in trouble here. I'm gonna get myself in trouble. All right. So as a general rule, are you guys still with me? Why don't we do this? We don't have time. I have so many slides here. We don't have time to give out awards. But what I want to do is I'm going to have you stand up, turn to the person on your right, and squeeze the shoulders of the person on your right. Just get the blood going there. Yeah, get the blood going. Give them a little massage. Good. Good. Just want to make sure everybody's awake. Got a little bit more to go here. Good. Karate chop. Karate chop. Awesome. All right, turn around and love your other neighbor. Good job. Good. Awesome, you're doing a good job. Some hidden talent in the room. Karate chop, karate chiropractic. Very nice. All right, give yourself a round of applause. All right, I'm going to keep going here. So I gave you some general conceptual understanding about lifestyle changes, how the cells work, what we should be moving toward and what we should be moving away from, right? I'm going to give you guys some supplements because I think supplements these days are, the food is so tainted and so problematic on so many different levels. You can't remove yourself completely. And as a matter of fact, with the soil that is depleted that they're using today, we're down to a fraction of the nutrients that we used to get even 40 years ago. And so we don't have the nutrients, and then the produce sits on a truck for a week before it hits our grocery store. So by the time we're eating even the healthiest of things, we're getting a fraction of what we should be. And many of us are depleted in many different supplements. So a lot of people ask me, do I take this supplement? Do I take that supplement? Everybody is different. I can't tell you exactly what you need, but I can tell you on a general scale what certain things will help with. When it comes to energy, and it comes to metabolism, and it comes to cellular health and vitality, making application with everything that we talked about tonight, there is a supplement suite which will hit the bullseye for that. Ultraplex B, everybody knows that B vitamins are very, very important for neurological health. This is something that will support carbohydrate metabolism, which helps with energy. Obviously, if you can't metabolize carbohydrates properly, you're going to have insulin resistance. You're going to be tired all the time, gain weight, diabetes, so on and so forth. Supports a healthy nervous system, adrenal function. The adrenal glands make a hormone called cortisol. When you wake up in the morning, cortisol levels are at their highest. If your adrenal glands are shot, it's going to be pretty low. You're going to have no energy, not just in the morning, but throughout the rest of the day. And this could be one of the things that plugs up the leaks in that situation. Cardiovascular health it helps with, and also mental function and mood. CoQ10, everybody should know what CoQ10 supports. Healthy what? Heart, especially if you're on cholesterol-lowering medication. We learned that last month. This, in particular, for what we're talking about tonight, it supports natural energy generation because it's a necessary molecule in not just heart cells, but every cell. For normal cellular function, you have to have support for CoQ10 levels and mitochondrial function, and that's where the energy factories are inside the cell. Supports plasma, tissue, CoQ10 levels, healthy functioning of cardiovascular system, and neuromuscular and central nervous system. Ultraplex Digest. Why is digestion important for energy and overall health? Well, if your digestive system is shot, how well are you going to absorb those nutrients? Not good, not very well. Another thing that hopefully many of you guys know is the intestinal flora in your gut, the microbiome that they call, is responsible for making neurotransmitters, specifically something called serotonin. How many of you guys have heard serotonin? What is that? That's the happy neurotransmitter. And if your microbiome, if your gut, if you don't have those probiotics, that could be a good reason for why you don't feel happy and healthy all the time. So this is one of those things that will actually support that. It helps to maintain normal gastric flora, normal gastric pH, help you to absorb the vitamins and minerals of the food that you eat for energy and good health. Then adrenal support, which we talked about, supports energy levels, immune function, and protective activity. So all these together, we give you a discount if you want to get them all. It's a limited supply, 15% off. The only time we ever discount the supplements is at the workshops because many of you come here because you want to actually make application with this. So if you'd like to do that, see the front desk before you leave. And one other thing that I wanted to talk to you about is, well, let me just ask you this. If the fish is, if you look at a fish bowl like this, and the fish is sick, you see that little guy down there? He's upside down. So I guess he's not doing so good, is he? He's going down. He's not floating. Yeah, he's not thriving. So, you know, you look at a fishbowl like this, and what could you reasonably deduce from a visual there? Needs cleaning. Thank you very much. If the fish is sick, change the what? Change the water. Yeah. Remember, your cells are bathed in this environment, either toxic and acidic, or it's alkaline. And your body is basically a fishbowl. All the cells in your body are living in a fishbowl. It's either a dirty fishbowl or a clean one. And this is why you constantly need to hydrate, and you need to do some level of gentle detox. You know, some of us need a heavy detox, and we have programs for that. But a daily gentle detox is super easy, super simple for phase 2 liver and kidney detoxification. It's just something that I do every single morning after I work out, because the protein in there is anywhere from 22 to 26 grams of protein, depending on which one, if you get the Metaclear or the Ultraplex Clean. It's got anywhere from 5 to 15 grams of carbohydrates, but it's fructose, it's sugar, it's fruit sugar. And then on top of that, it's got glutathione and N-acetylcysteine, which are the major constituents that your body needs to raise the detoxification levels, especially in the kidneys and the liver. And there are a lot of studies that actually show how glutathione boosts DNA repair in the cell. And if your DNA can't repair itself, do you live longer or shorter? Yeah, your DNA has to repair itself. And if you're toxic, it's going to stop your body from doing that. And the clock runs out sooner. So that's why I'm a big proponent of this. It just happens to have a multivitamin spectrum in it also. So you don't need to do a whole lot. If you're taking, it's got all the vitamins that you need. It's got the daily detox. It's a complete meal replacement. Really, the complete clean is a meal replacement. The Metaclear doesn't have a whole lot of carbs, so if you're going to have that for breakfast or lunch, you probably want to have maybe some fruit with it. And the other thing that's great to mix this with is either almond milk or coconut milk. How many of you guys do the shakes? You do? Okay. Some of you guys, I know that you've done this even as a real meal replacement. You've lost 10, 20, 30 pounds already. Some of you in this room, you've told me that. It's just been a slow but steady thing. Your body's just gradually let that go, and that's great. So I want to encourage you to consider this if you're not already doing so, because it's an easy daily detox, and it's the breakfast of champions. I will tell you that. It keeps your blood sugar stable. It keeps your energy high all day long. So there's a discount on that also. Another way to get a discount for many of you, Pastor Glenn, I want to thank you for doing yours today. He went on Google, did us a 5-star review, and if anybody here is willing to do that, we'll give you a gift certificate for 25% off any of the products. Why is that important? Because we have people that call up and make appointments from reading the reviews. They said, well, we were reading all these reviews and your office looked pretty good, so we decided to come here. Is that important? Yeah. Not because I want to say, yeah, I'm the best, but because, how many other places in the community can you go where you actually get real chiropractic care, real people who care about you, and a real place to learn and grow so that you can be a better steward with your health? Not a whole lot. Yeah. So that's why I care about this. Because when people come here, it's the difference sometimes between life and death. And a lot of people only give chiropractic one shot. One shot. And I'm not going to say it, but there's chiropractors and then there's chiropractors. And not all of them are created equal. And you guys know the difference. But somebody who chooses our office over somebody else because of the reviews, you just may well have saved their life. That's why I thank you for that. So for anybody who wants to do that, yeah, you get the 25% gift certificate, but there's a much bigger reason for doing that. All right, so thank you in advance. All right, so let's kind of dovetail here just a few more minutes. This study was done probably about a decade ago. They took all these men. This was a medical study that was actually published. 30 men with prostate cancer who decided against traditional medicine. And what they did was they tested the genes in all these people. 500 genes they tested. They did a test on them and they found out all the different variations, the alleles of their genes, the genetic variations, to find out which ones needed to be turned on, which ones needed to be turned on. Cancer-fighting genes, cancer-promoting genes, right? So they went through the whole gamut. There was about 500 of them on each person, all these different 30 people. So what they ultimately did was increase the activity of 48 disease-preventing genes, and they turned off the activity of 453 disease-promoting genes. An actual study, guys. And what do you think the outcome was of this study? They were able to reverse the degenerative disease in more than 90% of the cases. Reverse it. Okay? So how did they do this? They did a test. They did a saliva test. They swabbed the inside of their cheek, and they actually analyzed their DNA. And they found out all the information, and they were able to pinpoint what to do. Pretty interesting, isn't it? Now that was a decade ago. A lot has come out of that study in terms of what we can do now with genes on a clinical level. So DNA testing today, you can do it in a lot of different places, but the most important way that I would think to do it is not simply to find out who your ancestry was, where you came from, but really, what is your DNA, what is your genetic tendency, and what specific genes do you really need to overcome? What genetic expression do you need to overcome? What do you need to turn on and what do you need to turn off? I think that's the greatest advantage that we could have from getting a blueprint of our genes these days. So your saliva, and I did this a couple of days ago. I swabbed the inside of my mouth and I sent it off to a lab, basically to assess hundreds of different genes. And then there's a lab that actually is going to extrapolate that information. They put it on a genotyping chip. Don't ask me what that is, but it's obviously something that can analyze the DNA strands in your cheek. So they're going to go through it, and there's thousands and thousands of different variations of the gene. And it's going to tell me what variations that I have that put me at risk for different things. So this is available now. We have this, they're doing this in offices across the country, select offices. We just started doing it. And the most important thing about this is that you get a personalized report based on your genes. The report could be 40, 50 pages long of all the genes. And some of the genes are going to show in the report a small effect. Some of those genes you'll see have a moderate effect, and some have a very high effect or a high risk. But based on the risk of those genes, now you have a personalized plan as far as what you need to focus on. Because again, everybody asks me, like, what supplements should I take? What type of workout should I do? Like, what type of diet is best for me? Isn't it different for everybody? I could tell you generally, like, this is probably a good idea, but now we get to peel back the layers and see what's even better and more specific. Maybe you don't need to work out as much, right? Maybe you shouldn't be working out as much. Maybe you shouldn't be having so much fat in your diet. We know that good fat causes fat burning. We know that good fats are healthy for your brain. We know that you can drown your vegetables in extra virgin olive oil, but you know what? There's some people in this room that have a gene. It's probably better that you don't do that, and that you have a low-fat diet. And you don't know that unless a test tells you that, based on your profile. So here's an example I cut and pasted of what the report looks like. Now this isn't mine, but I was able to get a sample so that you could see, like, that says insulin sensitivity. And you can see all the alleles that they tested for, FTO, PPARG, I'm not gonna go into all that stuff. And then you see the gene impact to the right. So where the one shows 3 and it's blank, there's no gene impact there. But then you got 1, and that shows a low impact. But if that gene does express itself, you can see the focus is on obesity, type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, heart disease, disrupted fat metabolism. So that's something that you would want to look at and target in terms of suppressing that. Lipid metabolism is also going to have you determine whether you're at a higher risk or a lower risk for heart disease. So it tests you for all these genes, and then there's a more specific report in terms of the summary of what your particular gene showed. So PPARG, so that was on the lipid metabolism that I just showed you. So you see the result there. You see it's got one little heart. That means it's a low impact, as an example. And why is that gene important? It shows it's involved in the regulation of what? Glucose and what? Lipid metabolism. This receptor is a target for an anti-diabetic drug. And whether you're on medication or not, you know what your genetic risk is going to be, and you know what to really zero in on. Other health reports that are given, bone health, food responsiveness, all these genes, again, it could be a little overwhelming, but the thing to look for is the gene impact. Look on the right. Can everybody see? You got one little heart out of all 3, then you got 2 hearts, then down at the bottom you got 3 hearts. Is that good or bad? That's bad. So what does that mean? So then MYRF, you go to the summary page, and you look down there. That G allele is associated with enhanced conversion of DGLA to AA and it shows you what all that means on the left side. Increased enzymatic inefficiency, and appears to be associated with higher levels of AA, which causes systemic inflammation and inflammatory disorders. So if I get that on my report, I am going to hammer the heck out of the Mariva. I'm not just going to be taking 1 or 2 of those a day. I'm going to be doubling up on that. You take therapeutic dosage. You're going to have anti-inflammatory nutrition and supplementation to make sure that you turn that gene off, right? Is this making sense? So again, anybody could have this. Maybe you do, maybe you have other ones. Everybody's going to be different. That one up there, that particular gene, has to do with angiotensin, and it's going to tell you whether or not you have a propensity for high blood pressure, and what salt does, whether or not it's going to put you over the edge. And that's what that gene tells you. SOD2, here's one that has to do with elimination of free radicals. And with this particular individual, there's a problem there. And if you don't have the metabolism for that properly, then what happens is those free radicals multiply, and all of a sudden, you're at a higher risk for cancer. So this particular individual needs to supplement more with antioxidants. Maybe eat more berries. Maybe, get a particular supplement that's going to suppress that. Interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Here's another one, the CYP1A1 gene. is involved with oxidative metabolism of estrogens, which may play a critical role in the cause of breast and prostate cancers. How about that? I think this is good to know. So you have your health report, and then there's a diet report also, which tells you, again, what nutrition and exercise you should be looking to do for your particular body type. TCF7L2. This particular allele has 2 out of the 3. So there's a moderate risk because of this. It says individuals with this T allele experience less weight loss than CCG genotypes. Diet and exercise intervention is very important for this allele carrier to prevent weight regain. How many of you guys have ever lost weight and then put it back on? You may carry this gene. You may have this variant. It's important so that you don't regain it. And the development of insulin resistance to diabetes. T allele carriers lose more weight on a low-fat, hypoenergetic diet. There you have it right there. Somebody like yourself, if you have that gene, you want to be careful with those fats. You want to have a lower fat and less exercise. Again, you wouldn't know this unless you had your genetic code cracked. I'm not going to know this until I read mine. That's why I did it. So based on mine, I am definitely going to make changes, whatever this suggests. And I would suggest you doing the same if this is something that's important to you. This has to do with oxidation rate down there. So that's basically what the health report looks like. Again, it could be anywhere 30, 40, 60. The one that I just read was 60 pages. Very, very in-depth. But once you get the report, then we can sit down with you in the summary pages and say, okay, here's what the things are as far as your particular DNA you need to focus on. And here are some lifestyle changes you can make, and here are some maybe supplements or nutritional things that you want to focus on. And I think that'll really take things to the next level for many of you guys who have been working really hard on your health for a long time. At any rate, this just came out, so I already know what they're doing to develop the program. There's going to be an interactive online community and all types of things. So I don't know this for sure, but I would have to guess that they're going to raise the prices on this. And I'm just a local provider, so I don't make the decisions on that. But with this introductory price, this is what it's at right now, the $395. And for those of you who are in here, we're giving you it at a $50 discount tonight. So it's $50 off the $395 tonight only. If you want to do that, that's what you can take advantage of. But again, I don't know how long that price is going to be that way because I know they're working on developing the program. But if you'd like to do that, talk to Deborah, and she could set you up to do the testing, and then a consultation to go over the report with you, and then any recommendations beyond that. All right. What? We do the testing here. Yeah. So we have the kits. You open it up while you're here, swab the inside of your cheek a couple times, put it in a little a capsule, send it off to the lab. They put it on the genotype chip, and they read it, and then they send us the report back via email. We'll print it off a week later, go over it with you. It's all done right here. So it's a special appointment. Deborah can make those appointments for you before you go tonight. Okay. Any other questions? Any other questions? No. Okay. So I want to finish up with the nervous system, because your brain is really the interface as far as the environment and the genes with our cells. You guys know that, right? In response to environmental stimuli, the brain adjusts the composition of the body tissue fluids. Everything you think, smell, taste, touch, how you internally respond to your environment has to do with which system? Your nervous system. Yeah. Your brain communicates with your organs and your environment through the nervous system. Serum thiols, I want you to remember this. Serum thiol is a level that actually measures the DNA's ability to repair itself. And it can be used as a measure of aging and disease status. So serum thiol is one of those things that they look at to see how healthy the DNA is repairing itself. They use this in a chiropractic study. They published this a few years ago, Journal of Vertebral Subluxation Research. And here's what they did. They took 76 participants. One group received short-term chiropractic care, one group received long-term chiropractic care, one group received no chiropractic care. The outcome of the study showed that the healthy individuals who were under chiropractic care for 2 or more years had the what? Highest serum thiol levels. That's why I always tell you, You're getting younger with every adjustment. You ever hear me say that? You're getting younger with every adjustment. You better plan for a longer retirement, Rhoda. That may scare you. Everybody. Yeah, this is real stuff. So, and they've done other studies which show, the telomeres, which are the end of the genes, the DNA. They showed in a recent study, the telomeres shorten as time goes on. It's kind of like your candle going out, right? But they did a study. A lady went in with neck pain, and she allowed them to measure and do the study, conduct the study with the telomeres. And at the end of the 5-month study, her telomeres got longer. Yeah. Bonus. What is that worth? So how about your energy in your spine? Better than 90% of the energy output of the brain is used in relating the physical body relative to gravity. And so the more energy that you have to use standing up relative to gravity, the less energy that you have for thinking and metabolism. Dr. Roger Sperry won a Nobel Prize for this study. 90% of the stimulation and nutrition to the brain is generated by what? Movement of the spine. When the spine is in alignment, you've got good motion and everything works right. When the spine goes out of alignment, if any individual vertebrae go out of alignment, what happens to the joints? They lock up. And then what happens? You lose stimulation and nutrition to the brain, and then what happens to your energy? Drops like a bomb. Yeah. That's why one of the most common things that we hear when people first start chiropractic care is they have more energy, right? You sleep better. You feel better. You feel like you're floating on a cloud, right? This is what it comes down to. There's science behind it, guys. It's not just what you're feeling, it's how your body is functioning. One of the major places where we see problems, energy leaks, decreased immune system, increasing your risk of cancer, other types of diseases, is interference at the level of the brainstem. This happened to my father when he dove into a lake and he hit a cast iron tub, cracked his skull open, and the impact was so great it shifted the top bone out of alignment, just like you're seeing there, and it left this squeezing pressure on his brainstem. That's the area that regulates your blood pressure. That's and among other things. So when he came to a couple of weeks later in the hospital, he had these massive blinding migraine headaches. So he had to manage his headaches with medication for the next 40 years because the doctors weren't looking for a misalignment in his neck. They were just treating his headaches. So it wasn't until I went to chiropractic school that I learned what to do with somebody who has headaches, and I adjusted them. Just to make a long story short, how many headaches has he had since that one adjustment? None. But how long did he have to wait in misery? How long did he have to suffer for? Decades. And you know what? That affected my life. It affected my brother's life. It affected my mother's life. Our house was completely dysfunctional because of his sickness and his suffering. I won't get into that part, but I will tell you, he continues to get adjusted from 1 week to the next for the last 30 years, not because he wants to prevent headaches, but because he wants to live his best life ever. He wants to live at 100%. And that's what chiropractic has the ability to give a child, to be the best version of themselves. There was a little autistic kid who was in here this afternoon. Now he's putting puzzles together. He's blossoming. He's starting to talk. He's starting to behave. And the grandmother saw it. She paid for his care because the mother wouldn't. Mother never came in here. But now, like, the mom's like, I can't believe what's happening. So whether it's a child or an adult, it doesn't matter. You come in for neck, your back hurts, maybe you have no pain at all. It doesn't matter. When we remove interference from the spine and reconnect the brain to the body, you're allowing your body to get to its best health and performance ever. It's all about performance, right? So the spine has connection to every part of the body, and when you interfere with it because the bones go out of place, you start getting health problems. From the top to the bottom, you can name any sickness or disease known to mankind. It can develop if the bones go out of alignment. It's like shutting a circuit breaker off. The problem is that what I showed you here with that pressure on the nerve, most of the time you don't feel it. So most people wait till they're in pain to go to a chiropractor, and that's not the best time to do it. I had a guy who came in this afternoon. He hasn't been in 10 years, and he's he's a landscaper. He's lifting heavy trees. He's like, yeah, you know what kind of work I do. I haven't had a problem with my back in 10 years. Meanwhile, I look at his spine and what's happening with the discs. All shrunk up, all degenerated. Does that happen overnight? No. He just woke up with his back pain today. His spine's been degenerating for the last 10 years. It's like not going to the dentist. You have no idea unless you get a what? An X-ray, yeah. So you guys know this. So if you're a guest in here, that's what we do. We test, we don't guess. For guests who don't have a chiropractor, who've never been to a chiropractor, we'll give you the opportunity if you want to have your spine checked. You sit down with me for a good few minutes. I get a consultation with you, find out who you are, where you come from, what your issues are. From there, we'll do an examination. We do a thermal scan. We use NASA space technology to evaluate your spine. We do range of motion. We check your posture. And then if it's necessary, we take x-rays. Normally, it's a few $100s, but for guests who come to the workshop, we do it for, what is it, 47, only 47. So we only do that here at the workshops. We only do that for, for somebody who's serious about their health. Otherwise, we still love and appreciate you. But I love to work with people who are committed to their health because we always see results. It's teamwork, right? It's not just me, it's you and me. And when we're in this together, we always see good things happen, always. So if you're a guest and you'd like to make an appointment, see Deborah. The offer's only good for tonight, and she'll make that appointment for you. If you have any family members who you think need to be helped, you can talk to her about that also. And remember, the $47, you made mention of this at our dinner the other night. One of the things that you guys appreciate is how we continue to support our mission to Haiti. I don't need the accolades. This comes from my heart. I mean, this is something we've been doing for the last decade, almost a decade since the earthquake in 2010. And 100% of that $47 goes to our mission to Haiti, and to continue to support them in the mission field. So I thank you in advance for continuing to support that. Make sure that you guys get scheduled for next month's workshop. All right, put that in your calendar. Get the supplements if you need. Again, we have limited quantities, and spinal appointments and DNA testing. Deborah can do that for you. So thank you guys for coming tonight. Love and appreciate you. God bless.
Thank you. Thank you.